Before moving to France, I was making a six-figure salary, living by the beach, and even starting to break into theater. Life was cushy, but I gave it all up for France. No job, no apartment, and barely any French. Why would anyone do that? I'm Kring Laxon Dupre, and let me tell you my story. Before moving to France, I was living in New Zealand. I moved to New Zealand in 2017 after 5 years of journalism and public relations in the Philippines.
President Jejo Marbinay faces a second set of plunder and graft charges before the Office of the Ombudsman.
But getting a job in New Zealand was tough. I had no New Zealand experience, I had visa hurdles, and businesses had a preference for Kiwi workers. So I started my career from scratch. In 7 years, I went from retail jobs to unpaid internships to finally a marketing career. And it took regular meltdowns of 5 years of being underpaid before hitting that sweet six-figure salary. Getting to that cushy life was an uphill battle. But I made it, and I lived my dream life. I lived by the beach with my partner. We would walk out with coffee in hand, straight to the shore. I was earning enough to save 25%, invest 10%, afford dermatologist visits, French classes, do theater, all while finally feeling integrated as a Kiwi. After a long slog, New Zealand finally felt like home. But why settle for anything cushy, right? Comfortable lives are for suckers. So I decided to make it extra hard and start from scratch again. So I moved to France. In 2024, I arrived in France with barely any plan. Why? It was both personal and practical. The personal reason was that I moved for love. My now husband Frank is French, and when we met in New Zealand, he was merely traveling. Though it wasn't part of his plan to settle there, he stayed to be with me. At some point, I knew that it was going to be my turn to compromise. And that meant moving to France. And the practical reason is that in 2024, New Zealand was and still is struggling.
People are leaving the country in record numbers.
But New Zealand workers are more pessimistic on the jobs market.
Recession, high cost of living, housing completely out of reach, travel so expensive that it was isolating. These conditions led to what media called a brain drain, with many skilled Kiwis leaving the country for other shores.
Tens of thousands of Kiwis packed their bags and jetted off to live overseas.
We knew it was time to do the same. So we made plans to get married in France, and once we had that date from the civil office, that deal was sealed. By the way, if you have any questions at all about the process of my moving, do let me know in the comment section. I moved to France with barely anything lined up. I had no job, I spoke barely any French, and I had no apartment. We lived with my in-laws, and to be honest, at this moment, we still do. I thought that I had completely mentally and emotionally prepared for this transition, but no, nothing truly prepares you for the emotions you feel as you move overseas. In New Zealand, I was independent, with my own place, my own rhythm, and my own identity. In France, I felt like I had lost all of my autonomy. I was living in someone else's roof, and I was always second-guessing myself, even from the tiniest thing, like what cheese to buy. The hardest part, though, was losing my words. For someone who made a living out of yapping, I suddenly lost all of the words to be able to express my thoughts, my feelings, my sentiments, and essentially the building blocks of growing a community. Financially, we were able to save enough for 6 months until Frank found a job, thanks to the rent-free situation with my in-laws. It wasn't easy spending savings, but we were grateful to be afloat. And if you're planning a move like this, it's really important to have a rainy day fund of 6 months or even up to a year of living expenses. Having financial security for your move is one of the best decisions that you will make. All of this to say, moving wasn't romantic. But this is what I realized. When you move abroad, you lose your independence first, but then you build it back. It's normal, it's universal to all immigrants, and it's something that you should prepare for if you want to make that move. If you're an immigrant or an expat and you could relate to this or you have different thoughts, I would love to hear your thoughts. So let me know in the comment section. This is a random story, but in 2024, I asked my tarot reader how long it would take before I find my footing in France. And she said it would take a year. So a year on, this is what it looks like. For one, I found a job. I landed a marketing job with a French company, which is aligned to the trajectory of my career back in New Zealand. It was a mix of luck and strategy that got me here because it took less than 100 applications before I landed this role. But that's a story in itself, which I will talk about in my next video. So if you like this, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Talking about the French language, obviously immersion has helped with my comprehension and also my speaking. I feel comfortable doing everyday things now. But I do want to debunk that myth that immersion makes you fluent in a year. Absolutely not. The French language is made up of so many grammar rules, and if you don't study, you will hit a wall at some point. So if you plan to self-study, I recommend apps like Duolingo or Algo app for the basic building blocks. And if you want to have a classroom setting online or in person, organizations like Alliance Française offer structured classes worldwide. As for our living situation, we still live with my in-laws, paying bills but rent-free, which I'm very grateful for because it helps us save towards our next step of moving out. Fingers crossed I could make a video about that soon. Very, very excited for it. So as to the tarot reader's prediction, I am not there yet. I am not yet stable, but I feel like I am walking on more solid ground now than before. Was it the right decision to move here? A year on, and it's still too soon to tell. There are days where it's a hell yes, and there are some days where it's a no. The no days are the hard days when I feel terribly homesick not only of New Zealand but also of the Philippines. Days where there is a big event among family and friends with everyone eating, drinking, and conversing at the table, and I could only understand a third of what is said. Or being among work colleagues where complex business matters are easier to discuss in French, and I cannot fully join in. But I give major props to the French, not only the people I know, but complete strangers. I have never met an impatient soul here, and everybody is so appreciative when I try to talk in French, which is encouraging. And then there are days where the answer is a yes, when I see the major advantages of moving to France. There is the fact that traveling to other European countries is very doable. France is also king when it comes to social security and even childcare. Owning property is so much more achievable here also than it is in New Zealand. And lastly, there are hell yes days when living in France makes me grateful. Even the most whimsical things like knowing that I can trust any bakery to give me top-notch bread and even pastéis. Knowing I can admire architecture that dates as far back as the 11th century. I am learning a super sexy language. And I see my husband thriving in his culture, and that always makes me happy. Looking back on all of this, I know that this isn't just my story. It's the story of anyone who moves out of the country or even out of the state. You trade stability for growth, and growth is never easy, but you get there anyway because you realize you are tough as. If any of this resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Please, let's have a discussion in the comment section. And if you're living in France and have any tips for me, please give me those tips. I need them. In my next video, I'll tell you how I found a job in Paris without knowing any French at all. So that is a huge story. Merci beaucoup, nga mihi. Maraming salamat. Kita-kits ulit. Until then, bye!